Looks like I misspelled your name, though. All right, give me one sec, Michael. I gotta change that.
So are you streaming on Facebook? Is that what you're doing?
At the moment, yeah. At the moment, hold on. I gotta change the setting real quick on Facebook. So as I'm getting set up, this is Michael, Mr. Michael Lumen. I misspelled his name, Michael. It says Michael Lyman. Let me see if I can fix that as I'm introducing him. So he is, as the title suggests, he teaches people how to heal themselves. I was attending his class in around late, or I think I started out around the summer of 2019, and then let me see real quick. Yeah, I think I started around 2019, and around that time, I really didn't know what I was doing in regards to energy or metaphysics or anything like that. I was just kind of trying to figure out how all this stuff works. And I attended his healing class, and I was extremely sick around that time. And yeah, I just joined Michael's class, and I was like bombarding him with like a million different questions and stuff like that. And I was probably driving him crazy, but I gained a lot of value from him. Looking back in hindsight, I think he's a very wise guy, and he teaches a lot of great stuff. Okay, I think we're properly set up now. It's no longer Michael Lyman. Sorry, give me one sec, guys, to properly fix this. Okay, I believe I'm fixed. Okay. Sorry, one sec. I don't know why it's not letting me tag you. Hold on. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. One second. Why is it not letting me? Oh, well, screw it. It's as long as we're live, we're fine. Sorry for that initial setup intro, guys. So again, this is Michael Lumen, healing coach, and I've attended his class before. I gained a lot of value from it, and he's a very wise person. So today we would like to hear his story and how he came to the understanding that he has today and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, as always, kind of funky intro with me trying to fix the setting. But so Michael, can you share your story with me on how you got to the understanding that you have today? You have a very unique understanding of healing and reality creation and stuff like that. So
yeah. So I guess the best place to start, I'll start with my healing experience, and then I'll go back from that just a little bit and then move forward to now. So in 2015, I had just had a back surgery, like January 5th or January 1st of 2015. I reherniated the same disc 3 weeks later, only to find out that not only did I need to have surgery on my back again, but a majority of my pain in my groin was coming from torn labrums and bilateral impingements in both hips. So in a moment, like up until that point, I always had a doctor's appointment or something to look forward to. Right? But in that moment, I felt as if I was out of options. The hip surgeon wanted me to do my back first and then train for 6 months and get my hips healthy enough so that he can do surgery. And that was going to take a year. And I'd already been in pain for about 2.5 years. And so in a moment of feeling if I was out of options, I actually went out of town. I hiked up to the Deschutes River. I put all my pain in a rock, threw my rock in the river, and I healed instantly. Now, in that moment, I didn't necessarily realize what had happened or what was happening. The only thing I knew is that one moment I couldn't walk upright, and the next moment I could walk fine. One moment my pain level was a 10, the next moment I didn't have pain. But what was really crucial is one moment reality looked one way, and the next moment it looked totally different. So in that moment, not only did things change physically, but I also had a change of heart. Because before that moment, if I looked back, I saw all the things that I wanted to change. The next moment, I didn't want to change anything. But what also happened through that experience is that I found that I could focus my intention on others, and others could heal instantly as well. So without all of those things happening, it might not have lasted. Right? Now, just before that, I had started to understand a little bit more about energy, let's say. Right? I've had 7 right knee surgeries, 2 left knee surgeries, 2 broken ankles, 2 torn quads, a torn hamstring, right? All this stuff. Now, most people would say that it was because sports. I would say that sports put me in a position to injure myself because of disharmony. So I had already been doing a little bit with like frequencies and vibration, but I really wasn't in a position to allow it to work for myself. Right? It wasn't until after that experience that everything started to make sense. Like I saw things different. Like if one moment, I've always believed in possibility. So I wasn't limited by possibility, but the experience was great enough that I then knew that anything was possible. So right after my healing experience, I like jumped into the energy world, right? I wanted to figure it all out, but I wanted to figure out an experience that I'd already had. Like my healing was instant, right? All the people that I sought validation for were people that did things in time, like move energy to change the result, clear blockages to have a different experience, like all this stuff, when I already knew that it could be instant. And it took me about 1.5 years to work through all of that to get back to the point to where it can be instant. And like I don't have to do all this stuff in order for somebody to have a great experience. All I have to do is use my example as what's possible for people. And when I hold my example for people, people have healing experiences. So, you asked me earlier if I call myself a healer. I don't necessarily call myself a healer. I'm just an example of possibility. The people are the healers. People heal themselves. Right? But I'm just the example of what they can do because I've already done it. Right? And now that it's been, 6 years, I've helped hundreds of people. So my knowing is even greater. Right? But all I'm doing is showing people that life can be different than what they're experiencing the moment before. So if you tell me I can't walk up and down the stairs, I already know that you can. You just don't know that you can. All I have to do is show you that you can in a way that the experience is great enough that then you know that you can walk up and down the stairs. Right? Now, if we want to get into, let's say, quantum physics, right? And if all possibilities exist in the quantum field, then even somebody that can't walk up and down the stairs, at the same time, they can walk up and down the stairs. They're just choosing not to walk up and down the stairs because of everything that's happened in their life. All I have to do is show them that they have other choices. And if those other choices are great enough, they will then choose that instead of an old choice. Right? So I've had people that will say, I can't walk up and down the stairs. Right? I focus on them and then I say, okay, now see if you can walk up and down the stairs. 80% of the time, they'll walk up and down the stairs. Right? 80% of those times, they'll continue to walk up and down the stairs. Some people, because of everything that has happened in their life, walking up and down the stairs is not a great enough experience for them then to believe that they can continue to walk up and down the stairs, or to know that they can continue to walk up and down the stairs. Because there is a difference between believing and knowing. But as soon
Right.
as somebody knows it as the truth, then it's no longer, I can't walk up and down the stairs. But
Right.
a lot of times the stairs are enough to allow the person to continue to do it.
Right. I think that's really key what you said, as energy practitioners, the difference between believing and knowing,
Yeah.
that's key. I mean, it's a belief like you said, I know that anything is possible.
Right.
But, unless I have that experience, like let's just say I can
Well, I would say
teleport.
that you believe anything is possible
Yeah,
until you've
right,
had
right,
the
right, right.
experience.
I believe, right, you're right.
Yeah.
Believe, like, say if I want to teleport to you right now, I'm just using this as an example. I know anything is, I believe anything is possible,
Yeah.
but until I can like pull something like that off,
Yeah.
I don't know that I can achieve that. So you're right. I think going from the belief to knowing, and that's something that's been recently hitting me hard too on my energy journey and stuff. It's cool to like build magnetism to influence things. It's you know um nice to cultivate chi energy, if you will, and stuff like that. That stuff works and that stuff is great, and I still continue to do all these things. But there is a much more simpler approach to all of this, and that's something that Michael's always preached to me. And it always, even though even after I left Michael's class and stuff like that, and like honest, not just Michael's class, I left all the metaphysics stuff behind for like a year. But even after I did that, it's still that very concept still stuck with me, and I knew that remembering that concept and keeping that in my heart was very important as I'm embarking on this journey and stuff like that. Michael, what are some case studies or success stories that you can share when it comes to profound healing? It could be on yourself besides your back, or
Yeah.
others.
Well, I mean, I've had a blind woman whose vision came back. I had another woman who had been in a wheelchair for 11 years that just got up and started walking. I mean, hundreds of things. I mean, a lot of it. I mean, migraines all the time, back pain, like all that kind of stuff. That is, fairly routine. I mean, I had a woman who had had a baby and her ab muscles were 5 inches apart, and the next moment they were back together, right? And a lot of the experiences that I've had with people, I've kind of forgotten, because some of them are so amazing that if you sit and dwell on it, it becomes harder to believe that it happened.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if I sit and dwell on the fact that a blind woman all of a sudden had vision again, right? I might start to wonder how that could even happen. And it really doesn't
Oh,
matter how it can happen. The only thing that matters is that it did happen.
right.
Right.
That's true.
So looking back, trying to think of all the amazing experiences I've had with people, right? They all tend to kind of blend together because I've had so many amazing experiences, just like my own personal healing experience. If I sat there and I dissected it for the next 2 years, I might not have maintained that level of harmony, right?
Right.
I just knew that it happened. And then I just continued living as if it had happened, because it happened. But we can really easily get too wrapped up in it. And then pretty soon we start to question what's already happened, right?
Mhm.
But for me, as soon as I healed instantly, I started helping people heal instantly as well. Which every time I helped somebody, then I knew my experience was real, because I could have looked back at my own personal experience and thought, maybe that didn't happen. Maybe I wasn't in as much pain as I was in. Maybe I didn't need surgery. Whatever that is that we tell ourselves to try and make something make sense, right? But as soon as it happened, I went out and I cultivated that experience.
Mhm.
Right. And I had some pretty profound experiences right away. Like I charged my cell phone in my hand. I bent a spoon. I mean, I like all this stuff that you would think was crazy all of a sudden started happening. So I knew
Mhm.
right away what was possible.
Mhm.
But after a year and a half, I had to start to separate myself from all of that stuff, because I found that for healing, it didn't necessarily matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all the other stuff was building belief and possibility. But
Mm-hmm.
once you know what's possible, you don't necessarily need to spend the time practicing or trying to understand more. Right now that I know that people can heal instantly, bending a spoon isn't necessarily important. Charging my cell phone in my hand isn't important. To me, the most important thing is to share my experiences with people and allow people to have greater experiences.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, right in the beginning, I thought I needed to use my hands.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I would use my hands with people, and I
Because
would
of
put,
magnetism and all that kind of stuff.
or whatever you want to call it, like I would push energy with one hand and I would pull energy with another hand, and I would do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But all that stuff did was put me in a position where the amplitude was then great enough for the experience to be instant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? So I had a woman who couldn't, like, right at the beginning, who couldn't move her arms. Like, she could lift them up to about here. Right? And I still thought I needed to do all this stuff. So I had my hands above her hands, and I went back in time and I changed the past for her. And then all of a sudden, when we got to 15, her arms started working.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But really, it didn't matter what I did. What I was doing was building the amplitude in the experience so that then her arms could start working. But
Mm-hmm.
now that I know her arms can work regardless, I don't need to go back and change anything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, past traumas don't necessarily matter, because all past traumas are in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it really doesn't make much difference to go back and go over all of that stuff. Now I
So,
just know that none of that stuff
sorry.
matters.
What I was going to ask you was, you know, you mentioned trauma and, like, whatever you want to call it, conditioned beliefs or whatever. I mean, we all grow up a certain way. We all get indoctrinated into a certain belief system as we grow up and stuff like that. We get to the point where, we adapt some type of belief. And perhaps whatever that belief is causing somebody's, trauma or, injuries or illnesses and stuff like that. Some healers try to go back and, like, try to fix that root cause, if you will. And I've worked with therapists and, hypnotherapists and stuff like that, and try to, like, kill the root cause and stuff like that. You believe none of that stuff really matters, because being in the moment right now, and just
So
clear.
the only thing that matters is showing somebody that they can have a greater experience regardless of what has happened. So I'll give you an example. If the person says, I can't walk up and down the stairs,
Mm-hmm.
right? Something might have happened in the past that
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden now they can't walk up and down the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
The most important thing is that they can walk up and down the stairs, regardless of what the reason is. All you need to do is show them that they can walk up and down the stairs, and then the reason no longer matters. So whether it's physical, spiritual, emotional, past, present, generational, it really doesn't necessarily matter. The only thing that matters is showing them, regardless of what has happened, they can have a greater experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just use myself as an example. If I look back and I say, I wish I wouldn't have been addicted to drugs for 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then I'm basing everything that's happening now off of my perception that being addicted to drugs for 10 years had something to do with my experience now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But what shifted was, all of a sudden, when things were different, that no longer mattered. Right? The moment before my healing, I saw all the things I wanted to change.
Mm-hmm.
The next moment, I didn't want to change anything.
Mm-hmm.
But the past didn't change at all. My perception of the past did, because it no longer mattered.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody tries to tell me that they can't walk up and down the stairs and all the reasons why they can't, the reasons don't matter. What matters is they want to be able to walk up and down the stairs. So show them that they can walk up and down the stairs, and then the reasons don't matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But a lot of people want to go back and change the past. I just want to show people, regardless of the past, they can have a greater experience.
Mm-hmm.
No
Yeah.
different than if somebody is dishonest and thinks that, and deep down inside thinks they're dishonest. What they really need to do is start being honest,
Mm-hmm.
because then all of a sudden they are an honest person, regardless of what has happened.
Mm-hmm.
So the person that says, I have a migraine, it doesn't matter why they have a migraine. It just matters to show them that they don't need to continue to have a migraine.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But energy has kind of gotten pretty confusing as well. I mean, Western medicine is extremely confusing. They want to diagnose everything, figure
Right.
it all out, when
Right.
that doesn't necessarily matter. The only thing that matters is that people can have a greater experience, regardless of what has happened.
Right.
Right? So I've helped a lot of people that had POTS. Some of them couldn't be out of bed for more than 30 seconds. Right? If I showed them that they could be out of bed for 2 minutes, they were healed,
Mm-hmm.
because the two were such opposite ends of the spectrum that they could not both exist at the same time. So if the doctor says don't get out of bed for more than 30 seconds, and they're watching their watch and checking their heart rate and making sure that it doesn't go past 150 or 160 or 170, I just need to show them that whatever they thought their experience was is not correct. So 35 seconds might not be enough.
Mm-hmm.
40 seconds might not be enough. But as soon as they get to a minute, then all of a sudden that's a huge paradigm shift.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a second, is it 30 seconds or is it a minute? And if it's a minute, then 30 seconds wasn't real.
Mm-hmm.
And if 30 seconds wasn't real, then everything they told me that it's never going to change isn't real either. Just like fibromyalgia, I've helped 50 people with fibromyalgia, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as you show them that their experience can be different than the experience that they're having, then all of a sudden it loses its sting.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Even if they say, well, the doctor said it will never change.
Mm-hmm.
Anything can change.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If a blind woman's vision can come back, then anything can change.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If a lady that's been in a wheelchair for 11 years can get up and walk, then anything can change.
What is your ultimate goal in this pursuit of healing coaching, if you will? Like,
Well, it's just showing people what's possible.
but in terms of, like, you know, like career wise, let's say, like, do you want to get to the point where you are healing, like your knowledge is mainstream and everybody's like able to utilize your modality, if you will, to, or your teachings to
Well, it's
heal
not really my
themselves?
modality. It's just my possibility, right? Like
Right.
we're all
But
we're all capable of it.
but is that like your vision, is what I'm asking? Like, is your goal to be able to influence a lot of people, or are you content with just having a small group, if you will?
No, I mean the bigger the better. The more people I can show, the better.
So you don't have like a particular goal in mind as far as like how big you want to spread your message and stuff
Well,
like
I mean, I would like to do like healing retreats like Joe Dispenza does all over the world,
that? Mm-hmm.
right?
So,
But
so you
one,
do have the vision to get to that point. I do have a question for you in regards to that. And this is a very, I mean, you know how analytical and crazy and like
yeah.
logical I can be too much when all this stuff, I know I should be shoving all that stuff aside, but here's a thought for you. So, as we're talking right now, you and I are communicating over the internet right now and stuff like that. It's pretty miraculous, I would say. As energy people like myself, tons of us are like, emerging right now in this world. A lot of people are quote unquote waking up right now and stuff. As technology is accelerating, so was like these energy people, and we're all sort of starting to understand that all is one. Like, we're all just made up of energy. We're all just energy. We're all just one. Technology is also accelerating to the point where it seems like we're about to reach some level of singularity. Same with the energy, folks. Like, we're getting to the point where some guys energy levels, like you said, possibilities are growing so much that they're doing incredible things. They can pretty much manifest just whatever they want at will. We're all getting to that point, to that singularity point, if you will. Do you think that is a good thing? Do you think that's what we're all need to be pursuing? And do you think it's coincidence that technology is evolving in conjunction with like all this energy stuff emerging at the same time? Is my question making sense?
Well, a little bit. I try to simplify everything,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I'm so sorry to what I was ultimately trying to ask with that example that I was saying was basically, do you think everybody should know this? That's the simple question that I want to ask. It was kind of a long question, but do you think
Well,
everybody should
I,
know this stuff?
I think everybody should be empowered to know that they're capable of much more than they think they're capable of.
Okay.
Right? Like, I want people to understand that what they think that they know might not be the truth. Like, just because a doctor says this, and this doesn't mean that this is true for them. It just means that's what the doctor thinks.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're all capable of healing.
Mm-hmm.
We're all capable of healing instantly. We're all capable of helping other people have healing experiences.
Mm-hmm. The world has gone crazier since I've attended your class, obviously, because I was attending around before the pandemic started and stuff like that. What do you think is going on from this is kind of a hard question to ask, but some people believe that your outer world, what's going on in the outer world, the chaos that's going on in the outer world is a reflection of yourself and stuff. I can kind of certainly relate to that because I would say my last 2 years have been pretty wild and chaotic and stuff. As I was like practicing more of this wild, crazy energy stuff, it seemed like the world around me in conjunction kind of went crazy, became crazy as well. Um, do you kind of subscribe to that belief, that type of belief? And also, um, if not, do you think using your teachings, focus, intention, um, we can end this pandemic? What is your opinion on that?
Well, I might say, what pandemic?
What do you mean by that?
Like, it doesn't affect me.
Right, but I mean, obviously, governments are putting regulations in place, and I mean, I shouldn't be talking too much because that's like a red flag. But you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm referring to.
But
There's
I don't allow myself to get all wrapped up in it.
So what do you mean by that? Is like you're of the belief that if you put your focus on something like that, it's going to affect you. So you're just not going to even worry about it. And
Well,
people have the same kind of attitude. Like, can you elaborate on that?
well, I know that I'm more than a virus. I know that I'm more than bacteria. I know that I'm more than all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's no different than a negative person.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I I don't think I need to protect myself from negativity. I just need to be positive, and then the negativity gets to choose what it wants to do. So there's a lot of people that if there was a room of negative people, they wouldn't even go in the room. Right? I'll go in the room, and then my positivity then can influence the negative to change if it wants to.
Mm-hmm.
No different than if there's a room full of viruses, I'm not going to be scared to go into the room. I'm just going to go into the room knowing I can be more than that I don't have to participate on that level.
Mm-hmm. Do you think everybody should have that kind of attitude as well? Because obviously there's the people that say
Well,
there's
I don't necessarily know what everybody should have. I just know for me personally, I can be more than that.
Mm-hmm.
I can either participate on that level or I can participate above that level.
Oh, sorry, Michael. Just Fiona say hi there, you two living legends. Thank you. You are too, Fiona. So,
Uh, so there's no difference between that and anything else that happens in our lives. Either we're empowered to overcome whatever it is, or we're disempowered, and then we participate on that level. And then we have to experience the things that happen on that level.
mm-hmm.
Right? But we can be more than all of that.
So you don't really, try, like, you really think it's important for yourself to try and like create a world without this quote unquote pandemic. Is that what you believe? Like for me, if right now,
I'm living a world without it. And then my example is enough so that people then can live it as well. No different than creating a healing experience for somebody. Right? All I'm doing is showing them what's possible and then allowing them to go out and utilize that possibility to live better.
mm,
Right? Or I show people that we all deserve second chances.
mm-hmm,
And then to take that chance and go out and do things a little bit differently than what they were doing before.
mm-hmm,
Right? But the more people you can show what's possible, then the more people that are out there living a unlimited possibility, right? The easier it becomes for other people.
mm-hmm,
Right? Just like there's some things that appear to be more difficult to overcome than others,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
just because of how people's perception is of things.
Right. That's true. Very true.
But the more people that have, let's say, healing experiences, the easier it is for people to have healing experiences.
Mm-hmm,
Just like if you want to change the world, you have to be the change. And then enough people have to start to use that as an example. And then more people can start to change.
mm-hmm. Now, that's cool that you said that, but some people take that as like, okay, let's be to change the world, or let's be an example of change in the world. They'll go out and like, hold signs, start rallies. Some turn that rally may turn into riots and stuff like that. That's not the type of change you're talking about. You're talking about an internal change. You're talking about more of a realization type of change.
Well,
Am
I'm
I
just
correct?
saying that the greatest experience that you can have is to be an example of possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, since I've already had an instant healing experience, let's say, I already know that it's possible because I've already helped 500 people have instant healing experiences. My knowing is even greater.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, the greatest thing I can do is just to continue to share my experience and to show people what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's say if we'll use migraines as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If 99% of the people that have migraines always have migraines, then the amount of possibility is much less than if 50% of the people have migraines or 25% of the people that have migraines. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you can start showing people that they don't need to have migraines, then it's easier for other people to know that they don't need to have migraines.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But if it's my knowing and then all the knowing, right? You can start to break that down by just showing people what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If somebody comes to me and says their back hurts, I already know that I can help them because I've experienced it personally. Plus, I've helped 100 people with back pain. It's not
You
that big of a deal.
right. So if someone came to you, let's say, I'm trying to think of an example. Uh, like say someone came to you. Let's say they lost their hand, they amputated, their hand or something like that, overcome, they want to, regrow their hand or whatever. You believe it's possible, but something like that is like a true miracle. But if someone were to came to you and said, "That's what I want to do," will you still help that person? Like, will you still kind of?
Well, yeah, there's no difference between a true miracle and not a true miracle. Miracles are miracles, only our perception of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But you have to overcome not only the person's experience,
Mm-hmm.
but all the people that have experienced that.
Yeah.
Right? So, and it's probably not a matter of rebuilding their hand. It's only a matter of them knowing their hand is there.
Mm.
Because really the hand isn't gone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? They're just living an experience without a hand.
Mm-hmm. Michael, I want to share a story with you. It's I don't know if you're familiar with Neville Goddard's group of work too much, but there was a person that I after I left your class, I dated a woman who was really into Neville Goddard's work, and she really got into his work, and she got me into this to several communities of people that were manifesting some really amazing, crazy stuff. One of the people was talking about manifesting or waking up in a reality where they're basically they're dead. I think it was his or her uncle, I believe, just came back to life out of nowhere and stuff like that. I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, like at the time when I was attending your class and stuff like that, you still were going to church, you still had um, had a Christian belief and stuff like that. I believe the Bible says you can even raise the dead. Um, you believe raising the dead is possible?
Well, I believe it's all possible.
Okay. I mean, I hearing stories like that really, really gives hope, right? To like sadness and like, because when people die, when your like, pet dies and stuff, it's really sad and like, you're depressed for life. It's hard to overcome that, but knowing that anything is possible, it's just yeah, just anything's possible. And some ancient texts might say, you know, like
Well,
resurrecting the dead is like not a good thing, or whatever. Some say it is good. I mean, there's different opinions and stuff, but I mean, I think ultimately,
so things become difficult because of our perception of time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But time is a filing system for information.
Mm-hmm.
Time isn't real. The
Mm-hmm.
only thing that's real is the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But if we file information on time, then we think that everything that has happened has something to do with the present moment, because we've stacked time on time on time on time, and then we look back, we're looking for information, but we see everything that's happened, right? But it doesn't necessarily matter, because the next moment it can be something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody looks back and sees, oh, I had a migraine every morning this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty safe to say that they will probably have a migraine again tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When it doesn't matter if they've had migraines every day for 10 years, the next moment they don't need to have a migraine.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they know they don't need to have a migraine, they'll no longer have one.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just like you said, like if somebody's sad for the rest of their life because they lost their dog, well, one, their dog isn't ever lost. Just like the person that's hand isn't there anymore, they haven't lost their hand. They're just experiencing life without a hand, but they could just very well experience it with a hand again.
Mm-hmm. What? Knowing all this, we sound crazy to the general public and stuff, but knowing this knowledge, having this knowledge, Michael, what do you ultimately envision the world to be, say, in like 30 years? Do you think we're going to be living in a more of a conscious, world where it's more like utopia rather than and I don't, a lot of people say we're living in chaos. I don't really think it's that chaotic. You look at documentaries of like third world countries, I think compared to them, we're like, this is pretty close to utopia, I would say. But what is your envision? What type of world do you envision in like 20, 30 years?
Well, I don't necessarily know what to envision in 20 and 30 years. I just know what I'm capable of, right? And so I'm just going to continue doing the best that I can do and allow that to be enough, regardless of what the rest of the world's doing, right? Like, why would it even matter what everybody else is doing,
Well,
right?
I
If
mean,
you're
because don't you want to live in a world where, your teachings and others similar to that has become so mainstream that everybody's no longer suffering and stuff like, don't you think that'll be an
yeah,
ideal
but I don't
legacy
necessarily
for you
know
to
if
leave?
all I can do is me.
Hmm.
And I can't control what other people choose to do. I don't know how many people will choose to live, let's say, a greater experience than what they're living,
Hmm.
right? What I do know is that if I don't live as great as I can live, then I'm not being a very good example of what's possible,
Hmm.
right? But the best way to guarantee that everybody is living a greater experience is to continue to share your experience.
Hmm.
Because the more people that have great experiences, the easier it becomes to have great experiences. The more people that have healing miracles, let's say, the easier it becomes for other people to have healing miracles,
Hmm.
right? But it doesn't take a lot to shift the perspective,
Hmm.
right? Like, let's say you had 100 people with migraines,
Hmm.
okay? The first person would still think they need to have a migraine,
Hmm.
right? Because their experience so far is that they have to have it or else they wouldn't, right? But all of a sudden, if one or two people's migraines instantly go away, right? Then all of a sudden there's 98 people that are looking at those two people's experience going, oh, well, if they can, then maybe I can,
Hmm.
right? And maybe three or four or five or 10 more shift, right? Some of them might not shift right away because their experience has been so difficult. They still think that the only thing they can have is a migraine.
Hmm.
But if you shift 50 of them or 60 of them or 70 of them, pretty soon all of these things that are holding people stuck become have less and less sting.
Hmm.
Right? Like whatever you want to call it, trauma or whatever that has happened in the past, all of a sudden becomes less and less based off of the whole.
Hmm.
Right? But pretty soon it becomes, well, what is a migraine even?
Right. That's a good point. What is a
Right?
migraine? What does
Because
it really
if
mean?
100 people started with migraines and then you're to 10 people, and 90 of them now don't have migraines, pretty soon migraines aren't a thing anymore.
Hmm.
And then a headache is just a headache and no longer a migraine.
Hmm.
Whereas people with migraines don't have headaches anymore
Hmm.
because as soon as their head starts to hurt, they think, oh my gosh, here we go again. I'm having a migraine.
Right. The thing about you, Michael, is your teaching is so, you get pretty much the same answers, and your teaching is so simple. Sometimes I feel like, and especially for someone like myself, you know what I mean, who likes to overthink, who likes to, you know, break down like, oh, what's going on with like, with this energy stuff, and like who is an overthinker, we tend to, I think
Well, I used to
people.
be an overthinker.
Right, right, but let me finish what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is like, for someone like myself who is an overthinker, who thinks too logically and stuff like that, gravitate towards like magnetism and like raising energy, doing like yoga and qigong and like all these different energy stuff, like trying EFT and like yada yada yada, like hypnotherapy, list goes on, right? Because it sounds sexier to me. Like, oh, like your answer seems too simple. Like, I think
So
some,
there's acting
what
sexy
but
and being sexy.
but hold on, Michael. What I'm trying to say is this. What I'm trying to say is this. For someone like myself, like I had a hard time not accepting your idea, but like actually practicing it, because like there's all these shiny ball syndrome people out there. Oh, that sounds good. Like, oh, hypnotherapy. Oh, that sounds cool. Let's go to that. Oh, qigong. Let's go to that. I think to some extent, people like myself who like you kind of gravitate towards a million different things, it's best to just throw them all away and just like, especially if you're in like extreme desperation, right? Like you said, you had no options when you had a healing experience. Like, it's best to follow Michael's path when you're in complete despair, because like, what else can you do? What else
It's
can you do?
get out of your head and into your heart and have a
Right.
greater experience.
Right.
All the thinking is not enough to let it all go.
Right. I mean, then, and ultimately, I guess someone like myself, what I ultimately came to realize is, yeah, energy stuff is real, and there's all this other crap out there, and they're all great, and there's nothing wrong with any of them. But ultimately, what is the cause of illness? What is the cause of injuries? What is the cause of problems? It's overthinking, right? You would say, if you can sum it up.
Well, I would say it doesn't matter what the cause is.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that matters is it doesn't need to continue.
Mm-hmm.
But why go looking for all the causes instead of just having a greater experience?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can have a greater experience, the causes don't matter. If I can show you you don't need a migraine, then the reasons why you had one in the first place no longer matter.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing is to show you don't need a migraine, and then all the reasons don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just like if somebody's arm hurts, okay? Well, if the first time it hurts because of something that happened 5 years ago, if I just fix what happened 5 years ago, I'm really not doing anything in case that arm hurts again in a week from something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
What if they bump into a wall and they hurt their arm?
Mm-hmm.
It's still an arm,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if their perception then thinks, well, yeah, but this time it's because I ran into the wall, so I have to let it hurt for a while because I just ran into the wall, then I'm really not showing them what's possible. The reasons don't matter. There will always be reasons for your arm to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
There'll always be reasons to have a migraine,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I just show people what's possible, the reasons no longer matter. You could step off the sidewalk and break your ankle, and the next moment it wouldn't matter.
Right.
But if we're looking at the reasons all the time, and you step off the sidewalk and break your ankle, you might then assume that you have to have a broken ankle because you stepped off the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
The last moment doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you could be a jerk, and then all you have to do is choose to not be one, and you're no longer a jerk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just like you can have a broken ankle. Like I had an 18-year-old boy who was supposed to have surgery on his ankle the next week.
Mm-hmm.
I focused on him. He went and started playing soccer. When his mom took him to the doctor the next week, the doctor's like, I don't even see anything wrong with your ankle. It must have been an old injury or something we saw on the MRI.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But to him, playing soccer was enough that it didn't matter that he was supposed to have surgery.
Mm-hmm.
The reason didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was playing soccer.
Mm-hmm. I really feel that Michael's message is so important for people, whatever you want to call it, energy, reality creation, manifesting, whatever. I mean, I think it's really important to hear Michael's message, because we're gonna life is hard. You know what I mean? We're gonna hit roadblocks. We're gonna hit, you're gonna face adversity at some point in life and stuff. And when you really, really, really hit rock bottom, I think Michael's message is
But
something
again,
really deep.
rock bottom is just the place when someone chooses to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Rock bottom doesn't have to be like the worst experience ever.
Mm-hmm.
Rock bottom is just the moment when you choose to do something else.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, as I'm like thinking of all these ideas and stuff like that, I mean, Mike always corrects me, and I mean, he's right. I mean, it's I ultimately what I was trying to say, I think is energy people. It's just really, really, I think, important to keep in mind how simple all this stuff is. Like, we don't have to spend 30 years meditating in a cave to achieve enlightenment or become like a reality creator. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, obviously that is a path, that is a way to get there, and there's nothing wrong doing that. And I'm the type of person that would seek that path, but
Yeah.
I also know that there's a much
Yeah.
simpler
Well,
shortcut. Sometimes you just have to tap into that shortcut. So
if perfection is in the heart,
mm-hmm.
it's always there. When we get out of our heads and into our hearts, by default, we're having a greater experience.
Mm-hmm.
So if healing happens in the heart, we have to briefly get into our heart in order to recognize that experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But it's already there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's our perception. We have to teach ourselves how to heal ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
When we don't have to teach ourselves anyway, it is already there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't teach myself how to heal myself. I got out of my own way. I used the rock to get out of my way, but I just allowed myself to heal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Looking back, the pain didn't go into the rock.
Right. It was just symbolic for you. Yeah.
Well, it would just allowed me to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
But if we'll just use the quantum model,
Mm-hmm.
if my back is bad, my back is also not bad.
Mm-hmm.
If I've lived with back pain for 2.5 years, I start to assume my back is always going to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
So that reality keeps coming up and coming up and coming up when there is another reality where my back isn't bad. Right? So when I instantly healed, I instantly shifted to a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
One where my back was perfect,
Mm-hmm.
not where my back was 80%, or not where my back was starting to heal. One moment it was one thing, the next moment it was something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But again, we get stuck in cause and effect all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We think we have to do something to get something, and we're bouncing back and forth. Right? And so things change tiny bit at a time. When we can let all that go, things can change instantly. Healing can be instant.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Some people are convinced it has to be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think they have to put in all this work.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think they need to clear everything up in order, right? But if you continue to look back, you'll continue to find stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you get present, all that stuff doesn't matter.
Right. Right.
And anybody can do it. You don't have to learn anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't have to teach anybody how to heal themselves. You just have to allow them to utilize the experience to be enough to heal.
Mm-hmm.
When we try and figure it all out, it can be confusing because how are we going to figure something out that is on a different level of awareness than we are most of the time?
Right. Michael, this is the last question I want to ask you. I know, your answers are very direct and simple and stuff like that. but do you believe that you were born on this earth? Do you think it's faith? Or sorry, not faith, fate. I mean, do you think it's fate that you're doing this work? Like, do you think you're born? Like, I was talking to your mother once, and she told me when you were born, she knew that she gave birth to someone really special. Do you think you were born on this earth to do this work? Do you think it was your fate to do this?
Well, I think that we're all here for a reason.
So you don't think you're special in that way?
I think that my experiences have put me in a position to share my experiences with others. But that doesn't make me any more special or less special than anybody else.
Yeah.
Right? But you have to remember, sometimes things that have happened to us in the past put us in a position to have a greater experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If everything didn't happen the way that it happened, I would not have been in a place to instantly heal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But we all have the gift.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably some people that are a better example around some things than I am.
Mm-hmm.
But anybody that's ever had an experience greater than the experience they're having is in a position to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's really the most important thing, is
Right.
to use our experiences to help others have greater experiences, because then it makes our experiences much more real.
Right. That's great. Well, Michael, you're one of the most your teachings and your class. What I liked about your class, aside from your teachings and stuff, was obviously the atmosphere. I can't attend your class now because I'm working in the mornings and stuff. But what I liked about it was just the atmosphere, the wonderful people in it and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I was just like this young punk kid that's like asking you a million questions, but probably annoying and bombarding other people. But really, there's it's, you do have a fantastic Zoom class. And, your message was very profound. It always, like, even though I'm, trying to think logically and trying to, like, I have shiny ball syndrome. I'm trying to, like, practice a million different things at the same time and stuff. I always knew deep down, like, yeah, it can be that simple and stuff. And, like, still to this day, I mean, yes, I'm a meditator. Yes, I'm an energy guy. I'm a reality creator, whatever you want to call it. Yes, I am that guy. But sometimes I go back to your teachings and say, you know what, it's really this simple, dude. And it's important to remind myself this. And I wanted to interview you today because I wanted other people, my friends, if you will, in the community, to kind of hear your message and kind of, you know, get a different perspective, if you will. So, yeah. So,
And I mean, if going back to your thing, changing the world, right? If we want to change the world, we better make it as simple as possible.
That's great wisdom right there.
Right? Because you're not going to change the world making it any more difficult than it needs to be.
That's
Everything
great.
out there now is super difficult. Right? It doesn't need, like you said, life is difficult. Well, it really doesn't need to be difficult. If you shift your perspective, life is not really that difficult.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right? If you simplify it and you let everything go, everything that you need will be present. Right? But no different than manifesting or anything else. If you want something greater than what you have, let it all go, and you will have the greatest thing you can ever have. Because you actually already have it. Right? But if you can't have two things at the same time, you have to let it all go in order to have a greater experience.
I said it was going to be my last question, but in one of the comments, I'm
well, you know, I was actually going to say I doubt it's going to be your last question, but go on.
Okay, right. But I mean, I'm just getting questions in the comments right now. So I mean, you already mentioned this already, but I'll let you answer it. So, I mean, one of the comments that I'm getting is, so do you have any other quote unquote paranormal experiences, if you will, in this journey that you've been? Obviously, you have a really.
Well, I've had plenty of those experiences.
Can you share a little bit? I mean, like, can you share the story one more time about the spoon bending as well as the charging your cell phone? Like, can you share that story again one more time? Because
Well,
I mean, the reason why is because majority of my audiences, gravitate towards, or majority of my audiences are fans of that sort of experiences.
yeah.
So can you share that story?
So after my healing experience, the world opened up.
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw things totally different than I did the moment before.
Mm-hmm.
Like for a while, everything was energy and visible.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I saw vibrations and frequency and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then I kind of immersed myself in it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But let's say my phone for an example. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting there looking at my phone, knowing,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that the battery, let's say you have 100% charge in your battery.
Mm-hmm.
The phone only uses, say, 60% of that.
Mm-hmm.
40% of that energy goes somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Or all of it goes somewhere. 60% of it goes to the phone. Right? But knowing what I knew about EMF and EMR, like signals, I knew that the phone put off something that was energy, right? And if it wasn't in the phone, then it had to be somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was somewhere, then it could go back to the phone. Right? But I also knew that I could charge my phone by setting it on a charging pad. So I knew that I didn't have to actually plug my phone in order for my phone to charge. So if we want to just use, let's say, ions as an example,
Mm-hmm.
if ions are going one direction and they're all over here, right? Then they could go back to the phone. But I'd also been doing stuff with rocks and crystals and stuff where I could program a rock at 7.83 hertz and muscle test somebody with it. And it would be the same as muscle testing with the power band bracelet programmed at 7.83 hertz,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I already started to understand all these possibilities,
Mm-hmm.
right? As soon as I knew that there was enough energy around me
Mm-hmm.
to charge the battery, then I just asked it to go back to the battery. And when I asked it in such a way that it chose to do it, the phone started charging.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
But it's different than forcing.
For my audience who, gravitate towards reality creation, if you will, what would be your advice? And I guess we'll end it in that like someone who wants to create a certain outcome, whatever it is, whether it's like they want to move an object in front of them, they want to modify the weather, they want to, heal themselves, they want to heal their spouse, they want to manifest more money. Like, what would be your advice as far as reality creation goes? Because most of my audience is all about reality creation.
Well, if you start like the spoon,
Mm-hmm.
the spoon is just as bent as it is solid.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But you have to know that the spoon can bend.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have to know the spoon is bent.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens is when the spoon starts to bend and you don't know that it's possible, you start to think this isn't possible, and then pretty soon the spoon's not bending.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's not like sitting here with the bottom of the spoon and the top of the spoon trying to do this. Every time the spoon gets flexible, you will go, oh my gosh, this isn't happening. Or is this really happening? Or whatever that is that our minds start to think. You just have to know the spoon is bent, and then the spoon will bend.
That's a great tip. I mean, yeah, kind of like, I mean, it sounds
Even
to me
even if even if you're watching the spoon, let's say like this, and then all of a sudden it's like this.
hmm
It probably doesn't go from here to here.
hmm
It probably goes from here to here. There's no in between. Your perception might be that the spoon is bending. You are just all of a sudden the spoon is bent, but it's hard to grasp that it can be two different things at once.
hmm
So you have to watch it go like this when it actually is either this or this.
hmm
Just like if you say your back hurts,
hmm
I might say, okay, on a scale from 1 to 10, what's your pain level? And you might say, it's a 10. And I'll say, okay, relax for a second. And then I'll do this. And then I'll get, okay, what is it now? You might say, it's a 6.
hmm
It probably went from a 10 to a 0, and then 6 is what you grasp,
hmm
and then a 3. And then you might say, oh my gosh, I feel warmth and tingling. When there is no warmth and tingling. You just think there needs to be warmth and tingling in order for you to have the experience that you just had. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was a great answer. And I think that's something really, like I said, for us energy reality creators to keep in mind is that, like, yes, you're using magnetism and stuff like that to do all this, but it's not necessary. You can do what
Well,
Michael said.
you're using magnetism to build your belief in what's
Yeah, yeah,
possible.
belief what's possible. Yeah,
But you can also just know that it's possible.
know that it's
And
yeah,
you don't need
exactly.
magnetism.
Exactly. You can be Yuri Geller. So,
Is,
all
is,
right.
there is there anybody that's listening that's in pain that I can focus on and we can maybe show
Oh,
an improvement?
yeah. Like anybody in the comments that's in pain right now. I mean, there's only 4 people watching at the moment.
Okay.
Um, if there's no comments in the next 30 seconds, I guess. But yeah, while we're waiting, I just want to say, sure, try me, Morbius. Okay, but where does where any part of your body hurts, Morbius? Can you let me know in the comments? So we're just gonna wait on Morbius for a second, and then. Just waiting. But while we're waiting on Morbius, check out it's the website is michaeldlumen.com.
Yeah, and I do most of my stuff word of mouth now. I don't even necessarily update my website. I teach a class on how to heal yourself, but also on how to help others heal because it's kind of the same thing.
Okay.
Right?
So
But
those. So sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if people want information, you can just message me on Facebook.
Okay. Yeah. So to those that are interested in um, learning from. So it looks like Morbius commented. Let's try left arm touch. Left arm. I don't know what he means, but maybe he has maybe his left arm hurts. I'm not
All
sure.
right, let's just focus. I'll just focus on his left arm really quick, okay?
Okay.
So and this will give you a good idea how simple it is. Like if he says his left arm hurts, I just say relax, and then I just focus on his left arm. But I'm really not even focusing on his left arm. I'm just allowing my experience to be enough for his arm to feel better.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right. So how does your arm feel now?
he said same. But I don't know. He didn't say like whether he was in pain or I don't know. Like, you know, I don't know what is. Maybe he doesn't have any pain in his body. But we're running out of time here.
All right.
So we'll wrap this up. But thank you for that demonstration attempt, Michael. So once again, if you're interested in Michael's work, I'll put his website in the comments as we're wrapping up. And also, yeah, if you're interested in, like, you know, joining Michael's class or checking out Michael's class, just send him a message. I have his Facebook link tag. To those of you that are watching on YouTube, I will just put the put his Facebook link as well as the website in the description. So, all right, well, thank you so much, Michael. That was great wisdom, and that was awesome. So,
Cool.
great wisdom. So,
okay, thanks, Ken.
Okay, all right, bye-bye.
Okay, bye.